It's going down.
Hey, what's up?
Okay.
So let's start this off with talking about what we've discovered so far. Basically, Christian Peterson, and I'm Thomas Brinkley. You have actually found out that we've been studying the interior of Theater 9. This is before Willie Loman sort of helped leak the pictures from inside of Theater 9. And did he also leak the pictures from inside of 8, or were they available? I think they were available.
Yeah, I believe those were 8.
Yeah.
The ones we had on there, yeah.
Yeah, so Theater 9 has a purplish color, Theater 8 has a green. And how do we know this for sure? Well, first, the manager of the Century 16 apparently got in contact with Willie Loman and confirmed that those were pictures of Theater 9. Secondly, there is an interview with a girl, which was done by cell phone, in the school that they took all the witnesses to, and we call her the bat shirt girl because she's a blonde girl wearing a bat shirt, and she claims that she was actually an employee there watching the movie, and she said that the only theaters with top exits were theaters 8 and 9, and this is really important. The emergency exit situation in these theaters is what's really important about these theaters, specifically the way by which the bottom right exit is set up to open.
Mm-hmm.
Jennifer Seeger, in her interview, essentially says that the bottom right, where the shooter came in from, there was a hallway. And this is her original interviews. You have to understand that days later, she gave contradicting interviews to what she was saying.
Yeah.
But, essentially, what's her name? Jennifer Seeger?
Yep.
Jennifer Seeger was sitting with Corbin Dates. Corbin Dates said that he saw the shooter speaking to someone through a crack in the door. Now, this is really important because that door, the door that the shooter supposedly kicked in, does in fact open inside. And as soon as you exit that door, you're in sort of a fire escape hallway, which immediately to your left is the door that leads outside, which opens out.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So this is really important because of the infeasibility of, number one, the infeasibility of anyone wishing to exit that theater during the shooting would not be inclined to stand up and pull a metal door open and head out that way while it's noisy and exposing yourself and, kind of like is not, it just isn't feasible. And that's number one because people were trying to say that people were escaping out the exit door. Why are they trying to push this? Because they're trying to account for the blood trail out the back.
Yep.
And so compromised interviews have a lot to do with saying witnesses came out of the back of Theater 9, like Lori Schaefer, and later interviews with,
To clarify that 100% too, we know for a fact 100% that door inside the theater does not lead directly outside. That's one thing we definitely know that because of the way the theater is set up.
Because when you look at the images
from the outside,
facing alongside the theater, it's facing the door. The only door is heading alongside perpendicular to the screen. So.
Yeah, and the doorway comes out sideways from the front right of the theater, so there's so there has to be some sort of a hallway or something in there at least, yeah.
Right. So the point of the 3D model is to sort of explain how this isn't going to work. Now, that's number one. Number two, why is this important? Well, because there are interviews, specifically the Eric Hunter interview, where, so Theater 8 is essentially a mirror of Theater 9. And in the Eric Hunter interview, I haven't seen it recently, but essentially he says that he is, he let back in 2 girls, one of which had an injured mouth, and essentially he was holding the door shut to keep the intruder from coming in. And as we know from emergency exit doors, what would be the point of holding the door shut if the door wasn't out?
It would be more like pulling the door shut than holding the door. I mean...
Right. But if he's talking about the door on the inside, of Theater 8, he's speaking about a door which opens inside. Therefore, he would have to hold it. And why is that important? Because he basically describes that he heard girls banging on the door. Like these girls, the reason that he's telling the story, it's a compromised interview. David Muir's in there, also the blonde chick from Fox and Friends did an interview with him. They're attempting to cover up what happened during the Lori Schaefer interview. The Lori Schaefer interview is a self-contradicting interview. In that interview, which was early in the morning live with, I think it might have been local news, she basically says that, she gives two conflicting reports of how she got out. She basically says that her friend gets hit in the mouth by part of a bullet, and this is probably legitimate. And at that point, she tries to exit the theater out the bottom. The people are holding her back, trying to keep her from going out into the lobby because supposedly there's a shooter, which is something we're going to talk about later. Mm-hmm. And so they went out the emergency exit, and then she claims that she saw people coming out where the shooting was happening. She motions, like even though she's on a phone interview, that way, suggesting people were coming out of Theater 9, which she was remaining ambiguous about it because that's just infeasible. But this is important because she changes her story once the reporter, asks for further details, and she basically says, well, actually, they didn't let us out until 3:30, when, and then she, sort of backtracking, saying, oh, well, then they, the MTs, told us to go outside. So either way, she mixed up her story. So then they need to cover it up by saying that the girls went out and came back in. That's why we have the Eric Hunter interview, where Eric Hunter says he heard girls banging on the door, so he opened it up, and the two girls came back inside. Now, number one, if the girls are outside, they're going to come back to an outward opening door. They're going to be banging on that door, and it would have to be heard by Eric Hunter, which is another door away. That's number one. Number two, when he opens the door, he's going to open up another door and let them back in. The problem here is that there was he claims that the shooter was running with his gas mask towards him, and he ended up shutting the door on the shooter, and the shooter banged on the door and left. Why is this a problem, basically? Because the way that exit door in Theater 8 is located towards their emergency exit hallway, the shooter would have rounded the corner and, within a matter of a few seconds, would have essentially, I don't know, all the girls, everyone would have seen him. It's just infeasible that this occurred. Why else is this important? Because if he was outside holding the outside door open, if he saw the shooter coming from a distance, that means he was all the way around the corner. Meaning, if he let those doors, he would have let those doors shut behind him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just that's the point of this 3D model. I want to be able to show how strange these things are in these stories, and hopefully other people will be able to see them. As far as what else can be shown, is that the two young men who said there must have been a second shooter because the gas can didn't come from the shooter's side. This is important because this goes into an entire topic of the second shooter and the gunman in the lobby scenario.
Yeah.
Because the gunman in the lobby is coming. So Jennifer Seeger's interview, her earliest interview, says that she was bear crawling towards the main lobby, and people were telling her to go back because he's still shooting people that were exiting the main doors. She actually specifically says main doors, main exit. I'm not sure, main something.
Yeah, the
what
entrance.
She's referring to is the exit, which is typically in theaters, and is especially the case in this one, is underneath the what we call that, the stands of the theater.
Yeah, under the seats. Yeah.
Yeah. more or less behind the stands. You know what I mean? Like the main entrance that you enter in through movie theaters, and you go around the hallways into the thing. That's the exit she's talking about. People were getting shot at. This is happening during the, I mean, just from the official account, the shooter was never in the lobby.
Yeah.
So this is important because basically she says that they were shooting people in the main doors. She is basically, I'm getting lost what I was saying.
Well, the shooter in the lobby, we're getting reports from multiple witnesses about the shooter in the lobby thing, and there's a reason why people, I mean, when they tried to run out of the theater, there obviously was someone right there with a gun, and that's why they ran back into the theater.
Yeah, that's right. So he throws the gas canister in there.
From the left side.
I don't know what it was, some level of curiosity or whatever, but he's hanging out, and, regardless of what caused this, people immediately began running. And running out that exit. And what did they see? They saw a dude carrying a gun, probably an AR-15, wearing a gas mask, and probably holding a riot shield.
Which is about the only thing that's going to keep you in a theater with a gunman in there. I mean, you're going to run out of a theater with a gunman in there. So there had to be another gunman out in the lobby, otherwise they wouldn't have ran back in. Yeah.
Now, later compromise interviews with Seeger, because remember, her best friend recalls that the shooter was a very short person, and Seeger is saying that the guy was huge, like 6'3". And this is important because this shows that there's a clear contradiction between the two people sitting right next to each other. And why is this important? Because she's saying that when she was talking about people saying go back in and shooting people, she's talking about the emergency exit in the compromise interviews. Now she's saying emergency exit instead of using the main exit. She's not saying main exit.
Yeah, they pulled a little trick. It's the lower. Yeah, the main entrance could be considered a lower exit or lower entrance, but yeah, she kind of switched it to that front.
Exactly. She switched it to people saying go back inside. He's shooting. So now they're trying to say that the shooter, and when you watch that interview, it's with the Drudge. That Drudge, I'm not sure who that guy is that this interview is taking place, but it's her and Corbin standing right next to each other. Corbin's holding the microphone, which I consider to be odd. Like, why wouldn't there be a reporter? No, what it is there was no handy reporters at the time, and so they just got Corbin to stand there with a microphone. Anyway, what I'm trying to say, though, is that, change the story from people were telling us to go back inside from the main exit to people were telling us to go back inside from the emergency exit. Okay, what's next?
The gas can. We did have the witness report of a gas can coming from the other side, which was was that most likely facing the screen. That would have been in the left corridor, the left entrance corridor. And if you look at the photos, you could hide back in there out of the view of everyone in the theater, and then you could just toss a canister up and over.
I think it's worth leaving open. Now, the most important thing is we got two witnesses attesting to the fact that these gas canisters are leaving a smoke trail behind them, which means that there couldn't have been any, it's unlikely that there would have been any, how do we say this, difficulty in understanding where the smoke canisters were coming from. Now, if you want to say that the smoke canisters were bouncing off of things, that's ridiculous, number one. Number two, it's, just... I don't know.
Well, how far of a throw is it from the bottom of the theater all the way up to the top of the theater? Isn't that like 150 feet? If it did bounce off the back wall, like they said, some people are claiming it.
50. I'm thinking it looks pretty close from the pictures, but what I do want to say is he did throw it into the
top right
left stairs, and that's where it landed. And when it exploded, those are the people that first got up to exit, because those grenades produce shrapnel and heat, because it's very hot when that occurs. And I've already looked at kind of look that up. There's videos of police using those grenades in the Occupy Wall Street protests, and there were reported shrapnel wounds, and that's
really
most likely caused by smoke grenades.
And that would be not something you can just order online either, would it? A smoke grenade that produced shrapnel.
You can actually make them on your own. But what's important here is that these are exploding, and these are probably metal fragments. Like, to make your own stuff doesn't really, I don't know.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I guess you could get all of them either way.
Yeah. Okay.
What is important here is that the canister could have been thrown. They described it as coming from the back of the theater. So what's going on is he's throwing it over the wall of the side entrances.
Yeah, up and over.
And more or less, what's going on with that is, and because he does that, and because he hangs out for a second, the second gunman, the gunman in the lobby, he hears the shots firing. Obviously, people got up and ran like their life depended on it.
Yeah. First
saw
thing.
this dude, and what does he do? Because he's an idiot, realizing people saw the second gunman, he's now firing at them in the lobby as they're coming out of the exit, trying to kill the witnesses, which is obviously futile. He needs to get on the run. But the thing is that that's what accounts for the gunman in the lobby. That's why all the other theaters, including Ace, were being blocked from going into the lobby, and they were being blocked because.
And it was like a wave type. It wasn't like someone tried to go out there and someone told them not to. It was like the whole crowd rushed out to the exit, to the entrance, which was also an exit, and then they were pushed back like a wave. Like, obviously there was someone there with a gun to push that whole crowd of people back into a theater with a gunman in it,
Right.
And
regardless, that gunman goes back, like, because you might say, well, how did the second gunman go unnoticed getting into the theater, or even going in through the front? Simple, because that exit door, like we said, is not leading directly outside. It's leading into a hallway. And this is that emergency exit hallway. And the significance there is that this is where that second gunman was able to enter from. And that's why Jennifer Seeger, in the same breath of talking about the second gunman, began describing the hallway that she's talking about, which is, she's obviously not distinguishing between the main exit hallways, sort of hallways, and the other side of the auditorium, little entrances. She's talking about the emergency exit hallway. Okay, now, where are we at? So, where does he go? Where was he supposed to run back to? Where does he run back to?
Oh yeah.
He gets back in the side in that emergency exit of Theater 9, which leads back out to the white vehicle.
So that hallway is basically a corridor that runs along the right wall of Theater 9, right? It's inside the wall there, and it goes back up to the hallway, which would be close to the lobby. It would be if you came out of Theater 9 out of the regular entrance and took a left down that hallway.
So I'm assuming that it hits just straight and then comes out in the lobby like an emergency exit, or like an emergency exit door.
And then that door, that hallway would also be able to be accessed from, what are we thinking, the theater to the right of Theater 9?
Oh yeah, the whole point of the hallway is that there's these theaters that are not connected to the outside.
Yeah.
So, like, if you're looking at the theater from the back, Theater 9, to the left of it are theaters, and they need some sort of an emergency exit. So that's the whole point of the purpose of this hallway, is to provide bottom floor emergency exits.
Yeah.
This is very interesting. You noticed that there was not an emergency exit sign, and I kind of noticed that too, with regards to the theaters at the bottom of Theater 9. And maybe this has a lot to do with the fact that it opens in, that it causes obstruction if it were to open out. It wouldn't have a crash bar, therefore, which is that thing, horizontal bar that you push to get out of an emergency situation.
Yes.
This is all, significant. But Jennifer Seeger does, I think, mention that she saw an exit sign, but she may as well have been speaking about the exit sign the door that is in the hallway. So the one that goes directly out. No telling there.
Yeah.
There could still be an exit sign. Doesn't matter. But that's important. That's kind of important to notice.
Yes.
So I think another thing about these doors is that allowed for the back door to be just open the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Namely, like with that mechanical device that self shuts it. You know how they pin it open.
Yeah, that arm thing.
Yeah, the arm thing. They would have had that just sitting open the whole time. Or
Mm-hmm.
you know.
The door and locked. You can lock it in the open position using the little piston arm that allows the door to shut slowly.
Yeah.
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 On top.
So,
yeah.
Looking for somebody who would have experience with such a thing.
Mm-hmm.
One of our suspects would have experience with such a thing. Now, regardless of the fact that this is a high-level operation. So what happens? Okay, now another thing. If you look at James Holmes's car,
Mm-hmm.
the windows appear to have been busted out from the inside.
Yes.
With the door open, you can see the glass all on the outside, on the inside. With the door shut, where it was open, the glass is on the outside. Meaning that what may have happened is the second shooter went to the door, and I don't know what he was doing, but he may have just been waving or communicating to get the car to park or to get things ready. I don't know exactly what happens with him.
Mm-hmm.
But the primary shooter is in the car with James Holmes, and I'm thinking that James Holmes was coherent. He did not know what he was getting into. He trusted these individuals. He didn't know what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure, but either way, he gets injected with some sort of sedative.
Yeah.
Which probably was the wrong dosage because he just completely got wiped out.
Mm.
But in that process, in that struggle inside the car, Holmes kicks out the window. Like you can imagine, Holmes got headlocked, injection is being administered. Holmes kicks out the window.
Yeah.
Something causes the window to break from the inside. At that time, the first shooter is getting in position, getting prepared. They're talking, whatever could be occurring there. Maybe getting ready to time the shootout scene at Theater 8.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless, the way that they get back in is they just go back in through that front door. The other door that opens in, he's getting ready to kick that in. The other guy goes around to the lobby because he's going to throw another gas grenade in there to sort of help contribute to the amount of gas filling up the theater.
Yeah.
This is probably the stupidest move that they made. Why? Because as soon as the gunfire starts going off, people are charging out. They see the guy, the second shooter
Mm-hmm.
freak starts shooting them. Either way, he gets back in. Now, this is really important. This is all about the blood trail that's going back, leading back into the theater.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow, somebody got out through that exit door. I'm not sure. There's no way I can be sure about this, but it looks like from the footprints of the individual heading back into the theater that the feet were bare feet, and that there were sandals outside the door, that something caused him to drop his gun and his riot shield. I'm definitely thinking that this is an attempted abduction, and also the bloody knife that's ended up found at the far corner, which I think was the murder weapon on this specific person. And people have said, was it a child? Was it a full-grown person? Because the size of the shoe of the pink sandals.
Yeah.
The thing is that multiple people recount officers holding a girl who would have been between 11 to 14 years old. That's what they're saying, and saying that she was just a scary sight of the way her eyes looked, and just covered in blood and stuff like that. So I'm inclined to think that that's what's going on there. It may have just been her, weak nature, not weak strength, weakness of strength.
Yeah.
Caused this second gunman to try this abduction. Maybe, I don't know, because it's kind of hard, because if he's coming all the way down that hallway with the riot shield,
Uh-huh.
you know what I mean? Like, where is he planning on dumping off the boys? He has to carry it with him. He can't dump it off in the always are the legit thoughts.
So maybe it's possible that could have been a witness outside too, or something like that, or just an opportunity he snatched on in the heat of the moment. So, yeah. So coming back in there, you're cutting out. Yeah, so the call was, it was dropped a couple minutes ago. Did you notice when it dropped off, or were you still talking there?
Yeah, I was still talking. I kind of know. I heard something like blip, and then I tried to call you back. I was getting your voicemail.
Yeah, same thing with me.
That's interesting. So, yeah, so let's go ahead and continue. I think I was at the...
Abduction?
You know, the abduction scenario, yeah.
Yeah.
And I can't... that's the only thing I can think for this guy dropping his stuff, like the gun and the riot shield, and you know, I can't really think of anything else, and the sandals being there. I mean, there could turn out to be some other reason. Regardless, we do have that blood trail heading back towards the car.
Well, yeah, in the middle of a war zone type situation, you do you get that kind of thing. You know, people and a psycho who would do something like this. So. You know.
I mean, they're getting away with. They know they're getting off free within the get out of free jail card. So they're thinking, hey, you know,
get greedy too.
And I don't know. I mean, that's just the kind of mentality going on there. It's still difficult. Stuff could end up with it. Regardless, blood trail goes back in. Now, this is important because we're talking about time frame, and especially with regard to the transmissions. And I think you know a little bit about that. If you want to talk about that.
So basically, what we have is. What was the time of James Holmes' arrest? And to find that information, I mean, what we have to go on here is we have the booking report from the police. If you'll look on that, it says the time of arrest was at 12:40 a.m. And usually from my experience with the police, they're pretty on it about the times. Like, they know exactly what time events occurred, and it gets recorded. So a reporter asked Oates, not many people have watched those whole press conferences all the way through because they're really boring, and they actually asked Oates what the timeline was as far as the whole event and everything like that, and he says clear as day, and this man is privy to the information, like such as the arrest time. He's the chief of police, so he would know something like that. And he stated that from the time of the first call, from the time the first call went out, which I believe is the same time, I think the 911 calls started coming in at 12:39, and that's also the time when the police dispatch call goes out also. He said that time between the time of when the first call went out, his officers arrived immediately on the scene within 60 to 90 seconds, and he proceeded to say that they immediately took James Holmes into custody behind the theater. A total of 60 to 90 seconds after the first call went out. So that right there, basically, based on Oates' timeline there, that's pretty much what we have to work with. So you have to figure in the events that went down, and does that fit into that timeline?
Exactly. That is not enough time for him to go all the way down the far corner and then come back.
No, especially...
even into the shooting.
Yeah, and there was witness reports coming over the 911 dispatcher that said that she had witnesses inside the theater that reported shooting was still going on at 12:42. So that would have been 2 minutes after they had Holmes in custody. So
no way.
Yeah, well, I mean, so basically Oates in that exact same press conference, he also stated that they have no evidence of a second shooter, which is kind of funny to me. Right after he gives that timeline, you know, like people wouldn't be able to figure that out.
He swallows like he's gulping down just sediment or something like that. I mean,
he's obviously uncomfortable when he has to go
He's also
there.
got that guy that, luckily, that documentary showed nodding along with Oates when he was dodging questions. You know, you can see him in the background once again playing puppet master. You know, so that's really important. We're talking about the time frame, but if the cops are going to arrive 60 to 90 seconds, what's going to stop the cops from swinging around the back of the theater?
Nothing.
You know?
Yeah, they had it surrounded
That's why,
immediately. That's all
yeah.
admitted.
Precisely.
They would have noticed a guy in a gas
and
mask back
what
there.
time does that call come in regarding the individual with the gas mask stable style?
The suspect in the gas mask was, that call came out over the radio at 12:46, which was 6 minutes after Holmes was arrested or taken into custody. And that's when the cop actually says, "Is that the guy in the white car?" So that leads me to believe that maybe
Did that occur at the same time, roughly?
Yeah, it was like right after. There was an officer like on the backside that said, "We have a suspect in a gas mask," and then but it doesn't appear like, it doesn't seem like that's the arrest of James Holmes, because you don't hear any of the chatter that would go along with an arrest or anything like that. And it was just it almost basically common sense would lead me to say that putting two and two together, that was like another suspect in a gas mask, basically, is what that.
Or what we're looking at possibly is that
it also,
we now have exactly, we have a I mean, that's kind of important, because we do need a little bit of the time frame for the second shooter to make his way down to the corner without being caught.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So at that point, that's when they see that guy. And I find that interesting, because essentially when did people start piling out of the back doors? Because remember, the cops end up going into the theaters, like the far corner theaters. I don't remember what number that was, 10 or something down there, 11. At the far corner where the second gas mask was found, there were cops, leading people out the back doors. And the Sheila interview says that she particularly saw a cop with a gas mask on, jumping up and down, waving a gun. And that's when she knew things were serious, and that's when she decided to leave. Now, they were blocking everyone from going into the lobby because of the reports of the shooter in the lobby. And I can only suspect that what happened is the second gunman threw off his incriminating evidence, the knife, the gloves, the gas mask, and hopped into the car and left.
Yeah.
Hopped into a marked car. By marked car, they basically mean some sort of a government car, right? Like not maybe a police car, maybe
the reports that the suspect was possibly carried out into a government car. What are you talking? Yeah.
In the government car. Okay, so why are we making this today? I mean, tonight. We're basically making this because we're afraid that certain moves are being made in the alternative regarding
what, an individual?
Regarding motions being filed, which are dubious, which we've known for some time are dubious, and are being fraudulently set into motion by an individual who the judge's ruling is, the judge's ruling is maybe mentally in need of mental health.
Yes.
This guy, total top down, used to be, and not blaming him, okay, like, the problem is not that he would ever do something, but that they could use his persona to do something to us if we speak about him disfavorably. Yeah,
based on what we know and how they use people as pawns, like not necessarily saying that they are.
He could be the guy that's the woman, the bald woman with the red dress, who attempted to interrupt the court and say that she has evidence, and it might not even have been a woman, it might have been this person.
Possibly,
and talked about glowing auras and how there was a conspiracy with regard to the actual theater company. It was very odd.
Yeah.
Now, okay, so what is going on with this person? This guy basically made a bunch of YouTube videos, and what's scaring us is that he just deleted them all. I mean, just deleted them all. Either they're hid them so you can't see them. And why is this important? Because those YouTube videos sort of show him with a kitchen knife. He's constantly, he's trying to become James Holmes, like reincarnated. It looks like, by holding a mask of James Holmes over his face all the time, which is an appearance of a little fan with James Holmes' face on it, like a stick with a picture of James Holmes' face. You can draw your own conclusions as to how legitimate this is, but the guy has more or less like a New York accent. His YouTube channel is Gino Romano. He's on probation. Or is it probation or parole? What is it?
I believe he's on probation. He did time in a federal medical center, which I believe is a mental facility. He's worked with the FBI before in the past in exchange for a plea deal on his identity theft case, which he was just released out of
now he's
jail.
tied to identity crimes with regard to Kim Kardashian, John Blagojevich.
Well, actually, the identity crimes are an internet thing. It was an internet spamming thing, and it was credit card fraud. But the celebrities that he's tied to, I believe, is through his lawsuit thing.
Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting enough.
Yeah.
But before, when you search for his name, I'm going to go ahead and say it, Jonathan Lee Richards.
Riches, yeah.
When you search for his name, nothing was coming up. And now when you search for his name, he's got a Wikipedia article. It's like all of a sudden he existed the whole time. And I'm not saying that he didn't. He kind of did. We were watching it, and I was telling Christian, okay, don't put yourself out there or mention anything about this guy, because I can tell he's a trap. They're goading us. At the same time, he's a what I like to say is a smear campaign. He's kind of got this.
I actually
it has like an obsession with Holmes.
Yeah.
Like a love obsession. There's a lot of people called homies.
There's a lot of red flags there. Yeah,
attracted to Holmes. Supposedly he has like a fan base, despite how very like strange the videos are. Sort of
to
like
a layman,
I think that people enjoy this.
Yeah.
The thing is that he's filing all these motions supposedly that are dubious. I think he filed one under James Holmes' friend Yon Lee or something like that.
Yeah, there was one from Yon Lee.
And he was typing. Is this true? Like he was typing in like a Chinese accent, which was just like totally weird. Like like you release James Holmes now. You know what I'm saying?
He said Police Chief Oates hit him with a cell phone, and there was like other various. It was obviously like a fake. Like no one would construe that motion to be a serious motion, but it also mixes in. It'll mix in conspiracy questions too along inside it, but it's not meant to be taken as a serious.
And the one that's getting broke out right now was on his Facebook wall. Like they're acting like they just got a hold of it, but it's always been available. Well, it's been available on his Facebook profile.
Well, yeah, and if not he also has a blog that he's been posting the stuff on, but it's already admitted, like he's been posting his copies of the motion which match up to the actual motions that the media has gone into the courthouse and got the full motions, and they did match up to what was on his various websites. Yeah.
Right. So essentially what I was worried about was, hey, if we draw attention to ourselves by covering this online, then what we're going to do is we're inviting what could be somebody that they could use to blame some sort of violent act against one of us.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, we got to ignore that. Don't mention him publicly, whatever. Unfortunately, what we've stumbled across, namely with the 3D model of the interior, we're stumbling across a situation which I think is just, extremely damning evidence for them. The issue here is that now they're starting to make moves with this Jonathan Lee Riches, and that's occurring at the same time. So I'm sitting there thinking, like, okay, well, this operation, which I feel, it opens up the possibility for an operation which would compromise one of us, and then they could explain it. And the other thing is, you called over to that other Century theater, am I correct?
Yeah, it's Salt Lake City has a Century 16 that is identical to the one in Aurora. Yeah.
Right. So there was cookie cutter, just exactly
same layout.
Like the other theater, like the theater that the shooting occurred at. And tell us what happened when you called over there. Why this is important? Because they're going to want to close that sucker down, and they might use something like another false flag to close it down.
Yeah, that would be a likely target. And then they could also say that it was a copycat attack from the guy who thinks he's James Holmes, or he has some sort of a weird, disturbed... It appears to the layman by looking at Jonathan Lee Rich's activities that he has like some sort of a disturbed obsession with James Holmes, is what it looks like to someone who would look at his page.
Yeah, nothing against Jonathan Lee. He
yeah.
hasn't done anything criminal.
No.
Besides filing fake motions, and that's why he's on probation. Now they haven't like cleared him, have they?
Jeremy Jojoba, of a local Denver reporter, turned him into the Postal Service investigator because he was having James Holmes' mail forwarded to his house, and he was showing he had a magazine of...
no reason that the guy should be able to come out of his state.
No, I'm pretty sure you have to stay in your state, when you're on probation.
What is that guy's state?
Pennsylvania is where he lives,
Pennsylvania, all the way up there, okay.
Yeah.
And, obviously if this were involved any sort of government operation, that's not going to stop it. Mm-hmm. So that's why we're coming forward with our information of what we know right now. Essentially, what I want the listener to know is that inspection of the interior of the theater is going to reveal a lot of problems.
Yeah, definitely.
And now we're beginning to do that because photos were leaked of the inside.
Mm-hmm.
And more than likely there's going to be some knockout videos to be made using the resources that we have. There's only so many people that are researching this, and if there is a time to strike, that time to strike is getting close.
That's
and
correct.
They're going to, find that as a more viable alternative. Hopefully not. Then, trying to combat those moves. Now, that's our way of combating this. Now, obviously, that's a scary idea. We wouldn't want to get struck by lightning or anything like that. But we're letting everyone out there right now, if you're listening to this, know that you need to expect to hear from us. And if you're not, then you can kind of know what happened to us. My name, Thomas Brinkley, is actually not my real name. It's important to know you would actually have to receive word from somebody else that I'm close to, or essentially like see my face, which I've actually openly displayed, and see a name associated with it, which is essentially not going to be Thomas Brinkley.
Yeah.
But
So my name's Christian Peterson. I live in Oregon, Salem, Oregon. Anything happens to me, Google it, look into it.
I wouldn't say the specific city, but I live in Florida, so if it goes down like on a college campus or something like that in Florida, it might be me.
Yeah, so this is just basically this is an insurance policy we're doing right now, basically to let them know that if they are planning something like this, we're basically on to them, because it's just all the cards are lining up where it's just like you can basically see what's about to go down with this whole situation and the way this guy's being.
Because the way that they're doing it is they're setting it all up. Like, I was watching them set up the Bonnie Kate thing before they blew it. Like, I kind of knew, okay, they're stacking charges using her middle name and her last name. They're going to make a stir about that, and they're going to get us to watch this thing that's essentially covering up the far corner. And so I was able to sort of like get that pinned, the Bonnie Kate operation, with all of its, with all of its strangeness. And luckily that was able to either like stall it or keep it from occurring.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to this, I'm seeing it start. And, I mean, it's always been there, this Jonathan Lee riches.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew that by getting involved, I was getting into a trap. Now it's just going off without us involving ourselves in it.
Yeah.
In the conspiracy theorizing of it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's causing concern because it's coinciding at the same time that we're starting to embark on the analyzation of the interior of the theater.
Yeah, we're reaching a basically. I don't know if you want to say like taking to another limit or another level, or we're basically pretty close. We're right on the verge, if we haven't already, of debunking the original story 100%. And so it would not be unusual for them with their backs against the wall to start playing hardball on this one and pulling some.
Yeah. I mean, as if it wasn't enough that Dates is talking about a guy with a goatee opening up the door,
Mm-hmm.
and Seeger is talking about a shooter in the lobby, and a guy's talking about a gas canister being thrown by somewhere other than the shooter.
Yeah.
And there's just the crime scene found at the far corner. What's some other damning stuff?
All the police radio transmissions of conflicting reports from witnesses, which the thing that was witnesses reporting a shooter in the lobby, is what my theory is on that, and that's why you're hearing reports, conflicting reports, because it obviously would conflict if you were.
And now it's just going to be dead meat. Why? Because I mean, like the literal, like physical impossibility of certain things. Because Seeger was equivocating in her compromised interview, where she's talking about the shooter still shooting, and when she goes towards the emergency, or when people are saying go back out, he's shooting people going out. Mm-hmm. She was actually saying the shooter was still shooting and he was going down and shooting people, not being shot from outside. It's very strange if you want to hear it. You can tell she's equivocating as to what the nature of people coming out of the exits are doing. Now, I'd say the most important thing to take away from the newest investigations is going to be the ways in which those exit doors operate. Mm-hmm. Because the Basher girl also says that there are two doors that lead directly out. Seeger says there are two doors that lead out. Mm-hmm. There's one on the side which opens in. It's mechanical, self-shutting. Don't even know if it can actually be open. Like it might be just manager.
Yeah, it could be the equivalency of the outer door, where there's no handle on there, or it could be a lock system where it's not accessible to the public.
Yeah, because they could have met specifications through there being exits at the back, and also the exits that go out into the lobby.
Yeah,
because there's obstruction problem with that door.
So back to that Salt Lake City thing too, before I forget. We have an identical theater, and we need to know what those emergency exit in the front right of Theater 9. We need to know what is the situation of that exit. Does the door pull open towards you? Is there a door there? Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, is there a few? We need people to get there soon, and if there are reports of reconstruction going on, that needs to be said.
Yeah.
We just need to understand. Oh, go ahead. What interests you about it?
Basically, I called down there, and I was told by the lady who was working in, like, actually a pretty sad voice. Like, she sounded like she wanted to tell me, but
scared.
Yeah, like she was.
Didn't she?
Yeah, it was. It really was. If you analyze the tape, I have that on my YouTube channel. But I just tried to ask her. I told her I'm investigating the shooting over in Aurora, and I noticed that their theater is the exact same. So I just asked her if she could tell me what the emergency exit situation in the front there was, if the door pulls open or not. And as soon as I brought anything up, she basically said no comment. Or she said she was told to not say anything. And she may have been told that, but at least she knows why she was told that now, because I actually asked her about that specific emergency exit in the front of Theater 9, so now at least in her heart of hearts,
There's
she
always
knows.
the explanation of people are trying to sue the theater and things like that, but we're dealing with think tanks here. They would have covered those bases. That's what we're dealing with. The most important thing here is that those employees have got to know what's up. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
they know about the intricacies of that theater, and they are certainly thinking about their Theater 9 and what's happening there. Now, but, you know, very simple. Anybody that lives in Salt Lake could go and document this exit pattern before they renovate it or whatever they do. I mean, it's very simple. They could just tonight go and throw a different kind of door that doesn't self-shut, and then all of a sudden our theory is shitty.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So...
Which, by the way, employees would also notice something like that. So, possibly if we could get someone to go in there and sort of, you know, ask the employees some questions, if they can get them maybe without their manager or whatever.
The employees or get some cell phone footage of it.
Yeah.
And, you know, you have to question whatever comes out, because they may right now pose as COINTELPRO and take some cell phone footage that they say is it, and it could, you know, just be a compromise.
Yeah.
Cell phone footage. Either way, I mean, that window of opportunity is closing if it's available, and so that's what we're saying. Now, so very, very interesting points being made here are the exit hallways, which run alongside Theaters 8 and 9. We also know that people in Theater 8 reported going up the stairs and seeing bullet holes coming through the walls, and this would make sense because the shooter is actually going up the left side. So in other words, he's seeing people go out that top exit, which is at the top left, looking towards the screen. The top exit is top left. That's also where he threw the gas can too, and he's shooting people up there as he's walking towards them across the front of the movie screen. This guy is not turning his back to anybody.
Yeah.
Oh, this is so the bullet holes were going through the wall where people were going out, but this is another really big one. I found an interview with a football player who was sitting in the ground on the floor level. You know what I mean, on the flat ground front.
Yeah, the
theater,
lower seating.
Balcony section.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like the 6'5" guy who was there with his friends, I guess. They were watching the movie, and apparently he ducked and he missed the whole time. And then during that time at which they got up to run, because multiple people reported that somehow the bullets stopped. So he gets up and he runs. He says that the gunman saw him, and I'm guessing that the gunman became frightened of him, and he's looking at the gunman running around, and the gunman standing on the stairs, probably not very far up, because the gunman's keeping an eye on everybody. The gunman fires at him, and the bullet just misses his head. And this is important because the gunman
was not out of ammo.
That he was capable of firing, meaning he may as well have not been out of ammo, and he may as well have not had a jammed gun.
So that goes against the official story of why he stopped shooting, that he was somehow out of ammo or something. It was to make a getaway is why he stopped shooting. Yeah.
Was the real cops were arriving on the scene, so the cops that were already there, remember, people recall that cops were out there the moment that they were leaving. They saw cops out there.
Yeah.
So the compromised cops, radio in, and they say, we're coming in now, stop shooting. So the compromised cops go in, and at that point, what they find, either what they find or what they provide to, is an individual in black with a cape and cowl, like he's dressed as Batman. And this is speculative still, but this is very important because we're trying to work out how the primary shooter got out.
Or he could have also had the cape on him. He could have had the cape and Batman mask.
I think they would have reported the cape and stuff like that, but it is worth noting that the individual, the bad shirt girl, says near the end of her interview, cell phone interview, that she more or less says, oh yeah, and the shooter was dressed as Batman. So if you hear that on the news, just let them, just know that you heard it from me first, right? So what do we see in that cell phone footage? There's only so many cell phone footage that we have of the crime scene.
Yeah.
Of the famous cell phone footage of people running out of the theater, out the lobby, near the middle of that footage, a person comes out being escorted by cops who are wielding AR-15s. This person is short. He's buff, like Dates described the person as being short and stocky and buff. And people are actually moving out of the way. Like people that are standing by the doors are kind of like moving out of the way. Like this is some sort of prominent person.
And also, to interject on that, did he look like?
Black,
Did he look like he was injured? Sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
Did that guy in the Batman suit look like he was injured? Because the police were walking out with just that guy too, escorting him out of there.
He did not. Yeah, exactly. He did not look injured. He was walking in such a way. I mean, just if you look for it, he's walking in such a way which just appears excited. Like,
he had pep in his step, a little too much.
Yeah, it's just exactly. There's something weird going on with that individual. And everyone around sensed it because you see them just form a circle immediately when he walks out the door, and the cops just walk right along with him as they go out into the parking lot.
Yeah. Almost like the people inside might have thought he was a suspect. Some witnesses may have seen the police apprehend a suspect in there, and that's what they saw until they didn't hear anything about it later on the news.
That's what caused the Batman girl to say that he was dressed as Batman. You know? Like, she wasn't just saying, because she's way up there. So how is she going to determine that he's wearing a bat suit down there?
She may have looked over the aisle, too, down into that hallway. And that's how she saw him from above.
The Batgirl girl goes out through the top exit. She's sitting literally at the very top back.
So she could look over the handrail to the left, possibly without the shooter seeing her above him, if he was down there in that hallway thing.
Because, like, nobody really could, because the stairwell is right there where if you look at the model, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But what's really important, okay, you're saying from the lobby she's looking up from the top.
Or, when she was coming over the stairs, because how did she see that he had a Batman suit on? Or how did
I'm sure that everyone that saw them escorting the guy,
they word spread around.
Made the assumption that the shooter, that could have been the shooter, and that was her assumption. Was that that's the shooter? He's wearing a Batman suit. Now, this is really important because both of these guys, you have the one dude that opens the door who obviously was posing as a patron, and then you have another person who's dressed up as Batman, which multiple people recount as a kid wearing a Batman suit, but that's because this person was, very short, maybe 5'6".
Yeah.
To be honest with you, from the suspects that I'm thinking about, but they're having to pose as witnesses. You know what I'm saying? Because where do they end up? They end up on the roster of on the cameras and on the roster of people that bought tickets that night. So their MO the whole time was, this is what's going to go down, and this is how it's going to be played off afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's all we're going to say about that.
Yeah, it's basically the perfect alibi to be an injured victim. Like, no one that would get you off the suspect list pretty fast.
Yeah. Yeah. But unfortunately, anybody with an inquisitive mind would be able to detect such, suspects.
Yeah.
But essentially, what do we got here? Okay, so I think we just kind of bottled up all of the information that we're coming forward with right now, and through some more analysis, we're going to be able to produce some more.
Yeah,
stuff regarding the inconsistencies with regard to the interior. Namely, people were saying in compromised interviews that Holmes was going in between the seats towards people. That's completely completely unfeasible because of how people were basically crowding inside of these seats. And if he's going, and Seeger says that he went up the left side. Now the official diagram shows him going up the side closest to the exit door, which we know is incorrect. Primarily because Seeger says that he was firing at people behind her, and that bullets were rolling up underneath the seat and burning her, or landing on her forehead. And this could only feasibly be the case if the individual is walking along the front of the theater, which would also make sense. Why would he just start turning his back to everybody? As you can see from the interior, from the diagram, as soon as he starts going up the stairs, he has his back towards people. And
yeah, he was very tactical as far as the whole situation.
Yeah, he's very cautious about obviously being dressed in having these people having riot shields and wearing riot helmets.
And he was also described as having looked like he'd done it a million times too. That was Corbin Dates said that. I think he said it was so calm, which also kind of doesn't go along with the mania aspect of what they are. I mean, as far as like, I don't even have to talk about James Holmes, but
they said he looked confident with what he was doing.
Yeah, he didn't look like a maniac on a rampage. Basically, he wasn't consistent with that kind of activity.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, Dates' stuff alone is just enough to do it. I mean, if Dates would have came out with this stuff like 2 weeks later, they would have been, oh crap, you know what I'm saying? But
well, everything's been out there, but it hasn't been put together. Yeah.
Yeah. What?
All the information's been out there, but it hasn't been put together like we've basically put the parts together here. And
in fact, it's being purposely disjointed and clouded up with smokescreen operations.
Yeah.
Mainly the Wisconsin shooting, and
But this situation is totally obvious when you. I mean, everyone I've explained anything to, they're just like, "Wow, dude, you're right, bro."
Like cops, FBI people, and they know that I'm not speaking about anything crazy. This is not some Kennedy assassination plot. This is like everybody knows.
Yeah.
That something shady going on with that shooting.
So we're basically we've reached the point where it's kind of really starts becoming dangerous for it. We're kind of to that point because
what we're about to do. I mean, just a simple example is, please look at the diagram. The only thing is that we don't have hard evidence with regard. I mean, I can only imagine from the very very strongly imagine what it looks like with the exit hallway. But if you take that and you compare that against what's his name's interview, Eric Hunter's, because remember, Eric Hunter is a part of a cover-up of the Lori Schaefer contradicting interview.
Yeah.
Which, if you look at my videos, you'll see the self-contradicting interview of Lori Schaefer. Watch that, you'll see the contradiction. Then you watch the Eric Hunter interviews, and you can see that he's covering up what her story is.
Yeah, and it still doesn't really.
Be a problem.
Yeah.
Right, and what do we find out is that his story of holding the door shut would imply that shooter got into that exit hallway. And I don't know. I mean, there's going to be some issues with him getting into the exit hallway, and also him,
Yeah, because that was the opposite.
Why did the girl talk about them chasing them?
Well, that would have been the hallway on the opposite end of the two theaters too. It would have been on the side of Theater 8, where Eric Hunter was, where that hallway was, and it was just like 150 feet away from where the shooter came in.
What do we expect to do? That within this few-minute time frame, he said, "Oh well," and then turned around and went back out.
Yeah, there's pretty much no way you can squeeze really anything into that apprehended in 90 seconds max timeline.
Right.
It just doesn't. He obviously couldn't have physically done what they said he did.
Especially not at his car, in his car.
Already out there,
and I think transmissions said that I've got a victim in a white Kia. Do you remember that? I don't remember what. Remember that?
Yeah, I think no, it was a accident or something like that. Yeah, but they said they did have someone shot in a car.
They're talking about a victim in a white car, and
Yeah.
what that was the person seeing unconscious Holmes in the car. Now, Willie Loman did a big thing about this, because when you look at the photos of the back, the car has like a board underneath it for transporting, lifeless bodies.
Yeah, the spine board. Yeah.
Not lifeless bodies, but persons that need to be kept straight during the transport. What do they call those, stretchers?
Yeah, spine board.
But it was like a hard board.
Yeah.
And they left it underneath the car. Why is this important? Because apparently they needed it to transport Holmes out, because he was totally unconscious inside that car. That's why they said we've got a victim.
And why there was no mug shot.
Car.
No mug shot that night, because he couldn't stand up and open his eyes for a mug shot.
No mug shot that night.
Uh-huh.
100
milligrams of Vicodin story. Drugged in court when he showed up 3 days later. Yeah,
drugged in court. Oh my God, what needs to happen here? You know what I'm saying? I'm not sure. We're trying to contact agencies to take care of this issue.
Yeah, it's
and
like
they've been muscled out. I tried contacting my local FBI office, who took me seriously the first time. The second time, they're giving me a pre-programmed spiel where I can't even get past the girl at the front desk.
And let me add also in what Jonathan Lee Riches is doing could also be one of the big reasons why they're treating us like that at the FBI is because
beer campaign. You heard, you saw that the judge said, "Oh, I'm throwing it out. There's this person that's filing these dubious motions." Because I'm sitting there thinking hey, what the heck? We can just file a motion. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that was my first idea too.
The only reason we didn't was we became scared about, I don't know if we can still do it. If people want to start filing motions, go ahead. But we became scared of drawing the attention of Jonathan Lee Riches, who we feel could very easily find some way to, vilify us inside of his own mind. Not that he's capable of doing any of that. We're just saying that the government would, if they wanted to take us out.
Yeah, as far as the official, the cover story, that would give him a motive to kill one of us. It wouldn't be him who would kill us, but it would be someone else.
Operation.
Another James Holmes, basically, but he's more of a believable James Holmes because he has already done. He's got material online that is really disturbed, and he kind of has a reputation of being disturbed.
Hitler, right? Worshipping Hitler and holding knives to certain pictures of individuals.
Yeah.
Never showing his face, taking a bath.
He was locked up in a prison. You have to look it up. It's on right when you type in his name in Google. It's right there. He has
some kind of beef with. He has this video where he's jogging the whole time and he's telling the whole story and he's talking to James, which he calls James as this picture of James on a stick.
Yeah.
He's essentially saying, I hate the government for what they did and this and that. So I don't have any beef with that dude. I could see if he were legit that I would be cool with him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I would be.
What I'm trying to say is,
I would be cool with him too. I'd kind of encourage him to not. I'd kind of explain what he's doing to the movement with as far as his motions, and maybe if he would do a constructive motion that was actually serious, where he left out the crazy part, But that's neither here nor there.
But then I said to myself, I can't draw any attention to. I can't make a connection. We're making a connection now because it's just too fishy. That they're starting to leak this operation of I guess we could call it the JLR, Jonathan Lee Riches operation. They're starting to pull off the Jonathan Lee Riches operation without us.
Yeah, this is kind of like a threat alert. Basically, what we've kind of figured out that this could pose a possible threat.
Yeah.
This
just
operation.
To pay attention.
Yeah.
And then it looked like they were just going to drop it. Luckily, we kept it off the burner. We maintained that enough for him to get on parole. Now that we're going vocal, you got to know that he's got to get through this parole problem to get to one of us.
Mm-hmm.
Getting out of state and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, if they're going to try to go forward with this operation of compromising one of us,
it's going to be really obvious.
Yeah, then it's going to be an obvious problem.
Yeah. Everyone's going to know what happened, and it'll spread around really fast too, because we've already alerted all the people who need to know, who are in positions with the voice. So
precisely. Yeah. So okay. I think we said what we need to say. Is there anything else?
Yeah, I just wanted to go back to the importance of that front right emergency exit, or so-called emergency exit door. One of the possibilities on that, I just wanted to get that out there, is that if there's no handle, if that door opens towards the theater, it pulls open, maybe it's a one-way exit to come in from the other side, but if there's no handle on that exit, then a person... that creates a problem as far as the man with the goatee on the phone on how he ended up originally leaving the theater to let the shooter in.
How the person on the goatee with the phone even got that door open.
Yeah, because someone would have had to let him into the hallway first, so that would be two shooters right there, or two suspects. I mean,
and that's true.
Yeah,
I forget about the whole two shooters.
There's a couple of different things. Like basically, it'd be nice to know the door thing, because either way, it's damning. I mean,
either way is damning, because if you have to exactly open it, then people are standing up while the shooter is shooting, and they're pulling open a self-shutting door, rather than just simply running right out. You know, like running right out, which is just what happened. And so all that's incredibly significant.
Oh yeah, the upper exits. We don't believe that lower exit is an exit, because Theater 8 and 9 had the upper exits that were at the top of the stairs at the back of the theater, and that leads out onto a walkway thing.
Recommendations from the upper exit and just going out into the lobby exits. However, that was capable of functioning as an exit, but as you can see, it did not have a crash bar, because if it were to open such that it opened outward into that emergency exit hallway, it would immediately be obstructing the exit. I mean, like, because you can tell from the way it is that if it were to open up, it would just be blocking the only exit people have.
Yeah, so and that would be a code violation.
I'm totally thinking that is not accessible from the inside of the theater.
Yeah,
and that's why it's so freaky about those employees. You know what I mean? Like,
they know. Yeah, they watch the news and they know the layout of the theater, and I guarantee it wasn't adding up for them, and they're scared now. I mean, what do you? Yeah, not good.
So,
red alert.
So like, how did he open up the door? That's probably what they're thinking.
Yeah, and how was there one guy? I mean, seriously.
If he couldn't open up from the inside. And, they're imagining that whole hallway thing and everything. It's just unfortunate we didn't try to get in contact with them as soon as we could, because they were probably immediately compromised.
Yeah, it wasn't.
Definitely check out that video that you have.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting, and I mean, I may have maybe brought up the word Aurora, maybe triggered them to not want to talk to me, or it possibly could have been the.
Went to no comment. Like, as soon as you said Aurora, they were just immediately.
Yeah,
no comment.
so maybe if the employees did want to help you, you might want to come at them with more of like a, maybe just come out and ask about the exit thing in the front, because you're not really asking about Aurora. But
if there was just a huge stir, I mean, that's the whole point of going public with this stuff right now.
Yeah.
Simultaneously a double-edged sword. We're exposing ourselves, but at the same time, we're exposing them too.
Yeah, it's kind of that awkward in between.
So
yeah, it's that awkward in between phase right there, where we're vulnerable. But this actually is like the knife. We're at the point where we have the knife like jammed in their heart, and we're just. It's like the tip is just going in, but the blueprints are laid out. We know we basically can prove what happened, and now it's about just filling in the blanks and the finer points. But I'd say that we pretty much have proven, based on the evidence we have. I mean, it's not like we're getting some random crazy evidence out of our behinds. It's based on all the information that's been released, mainly all the official channels. So I mean, what are you supposed to do when the story is so bunk where it just doesn't make any sense when you're aware of the facts? It's like,
and I mean, you've got the complicity the highest levels of government.
Mm-hmm.
And, there you go, conspiracy theory proved. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That would be the whole point of the daggone thing is UN, supposedly that's where it would come from. UN Small Arms Treaty, week and a half away. What do? We have a shooting. Okay, well, how do we do it? We're going to, I honestly believe that preview played into it. Tell everybody about that interesting.
Oh, the Billa thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a movie called Billa, Billa.
That was playing at Century 16 theaters.
Yeah, and it was a limited release. It only played in a very few theaters nationwide, and it was Billa 2. And the logo on it looks like the Batman logo. And then there was the movie. I read like the Wikipedia on it, and it was about identity changes type things, swapping people out. It was there was just kind of some connections between. It was just a weird thing that you might want to look into. Billa 2, Billa 2.
Yeah, it was about witnesses playing dead. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, he was like helping the police somehow, I believe, and he went undercover as someone else or something like that. But it involved imposters, switching out identities, explosions, things like that.
That's interesting because what do we see coming from Jonathan Lee Rich's or the woman in red, the bald woman in red? She is saying that Century 16, who is it? The Century 16 owner has something to do with the conspiracy.
Yeah, and shoots.
And so there's something that we're not even putting into the equation that they're doing. And then when you add that to the fact that there was this showing of Billa 2, which I'm interested in seeing now, because I feel like that might have been, because why was it only being shown at the Century 16 theaters if it didn't have some sort of warning or message coming from the Century 16 company?
Yeah, it's an interesting side note to look into. Oh, on the motions too, it was just there's a lot of like Illuminati references. Chief Oates hitting someone.
Exactly, just lots of disinfo.
Yeah, just crazy. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to any reasonable person, and it would cause people thinking people to discount any kind of conspiracy in this event. That's like what's happening with that.
So, because when it comes to the engine of the conspiracy, you've got key positions compromised, and then what it is that you've got lots of things compartmentalized. So these FBI agents who are pursuing it are pursuing it because if they pursued it, they'd get fired. So it's all systematically problematic because it's corrupt.
And the police can't talk. The Aurora police have the gag order. Yeah. So
you don't have that many people in the know, right, that are capable of answering. So that's why they're limited to what they're capable of pulling off. They do have, I guess you could say, infinite resources, but when it comes to manpower, they're limited.
Yeah, they do what they can.
Control, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So there are probably enough and plenty of high-level people in the Aurora Police Department compromised. Just look at Dan Oates' relationship to New York and his being promoted to police chief of New York City a month before 9/11.
Well, it could have been as simple as maybe just the first responding officers may have been. But I don't know. There's just so much.
The ones that were delegated to go into the theater.
Those could have been the ones.
Out the Batman suit wearing individual, the short, buff Batman suit wearing individual, they would have been like in on it.
Yeah, they basically would have kind of ran cover. They would have ran cover for him. Those first officers are a little suspect who got on the scene just because of their immediate response, and those would have been the guys who probably would have been in on something.
Those are the guys that you're going to have to worry about. We do have that police officer that was killed.
The nurse too, who drowned.
The nurse that drowned. The police officer that had the motorcycle cop officer that had a accident. He died. Just lots of shady stuff going on over there because you're in Shield Capital over there in Denver.
CIA.
Colorado. So it's really scary. not only that, but they opened up a military town, is what they're calling it, in Colorado. So they're actually literally creating a town over there that they're sectioning off for the military. No explanation. But if you ask me, you've got all of these people that you've got to compromise, and I bet they're all just going to, move into that town.
Yeah.
And that's a really scary thought.
Free rent, who could pass that up?
Yeah, it's all caged off too. What was it you said?
Huh? I just said free rent. Who can pass that up?
Yeah. Who knows what they're doing? Obviously totally cut off from the rest of the world. I tried contacting Corbin Dates, can't get anything from the guy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's frustrating.
Yeah, and so I think what we're going through here is it's so bad that they've got to stop anything from just nailing it down, and that would include whatever operation they're attempting to pull right now.
Yeah.
But I guess we're good. How long is